Good morning, ladies. Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be able to welcome you to Josephinum Academy. My name is Michael Doherty. I'm the proud president of this wonderful school. It's my pleasure to be able to introduce you most especially to our students. And so if I could, ladies, would you stand up just so that we can say hello? If you would remain standing for just a heartbeat, I want to share with you a little bit about these inspiring young women. They come to us from 40 different zip codes of Chicago, seeking a quality Catholic college preparatory environment. Every year, it's routine for our students to have 100% acceptance into college. We think we've got three major tasks ahead of us each year. One is to give our students a quality education that prepares them for success at college and in life. Second is to help guide our students and their families in the college search process so that they find the school that's the very best fit for them. Third is to help our young women win the scholarships and competitive prizes that help to make college affordable. Last year's class was awarded more than $1.9 million in merit-based college scholarships, and we look forward to breaking that record this year. Thank you. Thank you. Before we begin, I'd like us to take just a moment of silence. This past weekend was one of brutal violence in our own city. 44 wounded, 8 killed. I often wonder what our city could be like if we had stronger educational opportunities for our children. I'd also like to remember especially all of those who are missing from the Korean ferry that sank just last week. I believe the number is around 200 who are presumed to be dead, the majority of whom are teenagers who were just on a field trip. Last, I want to take a moment to remember all of those other lives that are in, sometimes now in Chicago, schools that we know need a lot of help. I won't go so far as to call them sinking ships, but I would say that it's clear that we need everybody's help if we're going to have a strong solution. And so it's in that spirit today that we welcome you for a dialogue, not to promote any personal ideology or political party or individual politician, but to create the space where we can have a conversation about an issue that I believe is deeply relevant to our students, the communities they come from, our city, and our country. It's with this that it's my pleasure to be able to introduce Mr. Ted Dabrowski, the Vice President of Policy from the Illinois Policy Institute.
Michael, thank you for that introduction, and thank you so much for hosting this event at this awesome gym and school, and it's great to see it full of people and energy. When I think of Josephinum and what I've gotten to know of it, I think it really evokes everything that I think of as what school choice means. You've got students coming from many, many places outside the city, in the suburbs, some traveling a long way to get here. You've got families scraping by to make sure that they can pay for an education at a school like this. And you've got administrators and teachers dedicated to making this a great school and caring about the children. Not in the trite way that's often talked about, the children. I think it's really meant here. And so it's just exciting to be here, and thank you for hosting. The Illinois Policy Institute got to know Josephinum more deeply because we followed the story of Jalen. She's one of the students here. And one of our staff members at the Illinois Policy Institute tracked her trip every day to school and wrote about it, and it made it into the Tribune. And Jalen travels in an hour and a half each way to get to school. She takes 1 car ride, 2 bus rides, 2 train rides, and 2 brisk walks to make it to school every day. It's an hour and a half. But what's amazing is that she has to do it on the way home again. That's what people do when they're given the chance to succeed. That's what people do when they have a choice and an alternative. And that's what we need to see more of in Illinois. and in Chicago. Now, sadly, you would think that there's got to be a closer school for Jalen, somewhere closer to her home. You've got to think that there's got to be better policies that are going to create more and more schools so that somebody doesn't have to travel an hour and a half one way. But the reality is that most of the laws and policies that are being put in place in Illinois and Chicago are not working the right way. They're not promoting more alternatives, they're promoting less. And if Jalen didn't have access to a scholarship given by Josephinum and its backers, she may be stuck in a school that doesn't work for her, that doesn't give her the best opportunity in life. So sadly, I think those opportunities aren't there. Today's school choice really only exists for the wealthy, for those people who have enough means to leave an area without a good school and move to an environment where there's better schools, the suburbs, another city. And that's what the wealthy do. They have school choice all the time. There's a few people in the inner city that do have school choice, and that's if they win the lottery to attend a charter school. But the rest of those people, those without means, those who don't win the lottery, are pretty much trapped in one choice, and that's not fair. And I think this meeting is about making sure that every single child, that we don't rest until every single child in Chicago, in Illinois, and in America have more than one choice. And that's what we have to fight for. So I think it's so exciting to bring everybody together, to have Andrew Broy from the Illinois Network of Charter Schools fight every day for more charter schools in Illinois. Amy Biasbas, who is the head of the Chicago Virtual Charter School, bringing innovation and a totally different way of learning, and bringing that innovation that changes how school is taught. It's exciting for me. We pair that with the families who are going to talk in just a few minutes. And we pair that, of course, with Michael's school here, Josephinum. What we do is we add Senator Rand Paul and bringing a national voice and showing interest in making more choice a reality. You know, I think the truth is that there's a lot of people who don't want more innovation in our schools. There's a group of people who don't want to give parents and children more control over education dollars. And this group here that wants more choice, more alternatives, more options for the children, needs to raise their voice. And so we're thankful that Senator Rand Paul has come here today to help create a dialogue. I think it's important what Michael said. This is a dialogue. Let's open up the discussion. Let's find out what alternatives there are. And so with that, I welcome Senator Rand Paul to Chicago and to Josephinum.
All right, well, thanks, everybody, and I want to thank Josephinum for letting me be part of this forum today. As was mentioned, education is not a Republican or a Democrat issue, okay? But education is the great equalizer. You want to have equality in your country, you want to have an equal fighting chance with everybody else, it's not easy. Not everybody's got the same chances, but if you get an education, that is the great equalizer. Now, while this is not a Republican or a Democrat issue, there are people on two sides of this issue. I call them the dead-enders and those who believe in innovation. We've been trying the same thing in education for 50 to 100 years. And education, particularly in our big cities, has been a downward spiral. So I think just throwing more money at the problem hasn't fixed the problem. Does education cost money? Yeah, it costs money. But we need to try innovation. Innovation means empowering people, means giving more power. This isn't ideologues versus the public school teachers union. This isn't public versus private. My kids go to public school in Kentucky, but they have a choice on which public school they go to. Choice helps to make us better. Competition, you run a race, makes you better. Competition in business, it all makes us better. It helps us to distribute our product. It helps to make us more efficient. It helps to make the product better. Competition is what we need, and that's what we're talking about. But it isn't us versus the teachers or private versus public. We're all in this together. Many people here also went to public schools as well. But choice helps to make us better. So as we look forward in this debate, we need to figure out that it isn't one group versus another, but it is dead enders, those who want the status quo and who aren't open to change, aren't open to innovation, versus those who think we need to do something differently. I'm a big believer that no one in Washington really is very good with education or knows anything about education. And they should have very little to do with your education. These decisions should be made in Chicago, in Illinois, in Kentucky, but not in Washington. Also, I would say to teachers, sometimes public school teachers have said, we don't want any of this. You're rocking the boat. You're just trying to help private schools at the expense of public schools. It's not true. In Washington, nobody knows whether you're a good teacher or a bad teacher. So a lot of this transferring of power to Washington has been Washington telling you whether you're a good principal or a good teacher or a good superintendent. If that power comes back to the states and locality, teachers will have more power. Teachers should be the driving force behind a movement for empowerment to teachers and principals in localities. So what I would say is it's not a partisan issue. I'm here today to learn more about Josephinum, to learn more about how well you're doing, and maybe to figure out how I get, my son goes to an all-boys school, so I got to figure out how we'll get a mixer going or something here. So thank you very much. And at this time, we're going to have the students come forward. Policy people, okay, come on.
So I just, to help Senator Rand on the introductions, again, my name is Ted Dabrowski. I'm at the Illinois Policy Institute, and I'm the Vice President of Policy. And our goal is to make sure that all options are on the table, public, private, charter, digital. It's all about getting broad policy in place.
Again, hello, my name is Amy Viasbis, and I'm the head of school for Chicago Virtual Charter School.
Hello, Andrew Broy. I'm the head of the Illinois Network of Charter Schools. We're a statewide membership and support organization representing the 145 charter schools statewide that collectively serve 57,000 students today.
And hello, I'm Michael Doherty. I'm the president at Josephinum Academy. Our mission is to empower young women to become confident, faith-filled leaders. And we do that by providing them an exceptional college preparatory education.
Maybe, Amy, you could start out and tell us what a virtual school is and what you're doing with the virtual schools.
Sure. We actually run what they call a hybrid school, so it's partially students come on site. They're required 2 hours and 50 minutes on site 1 day a week. So we service kids kindergarten through 12th grade, and we prepare those kids to be independent, self-sufficient learners from kindergarten through 12th grade. Now, kids when they are on site, they're supported by a Illinois certified teacher, as well as there's a dedicated learning coach in their life. So a learning coach could be a parent, it could be a grandmother, it could be a retired grandparent of some sort, and they work with that child 5 days a week. So when they're not on site with their certified teacher, they are working with that individual. And they work on an online curriculum we use K-12's curriculum, and it's as kids start in kindergarten and move to high school, they're online, they're not just sitting in front of the computer. When you're younger, you're only doing 30% of your time online lessons with the support of a learning coach, and as you get older, that time increases. And then the rest of the time, they're working with their learning coach on science labs, traditionally what you would see in a brick and mortar setting. So it's an innovative way to allow a child to learn at their own individualized pace, as well as some flexibility in how that information is delivered. So if the science is not clicking on the online portion of the lesson, they have the opportunity to do hands-on activities.
Have you been in existence long enough to show if you're testing comparably to other types of schools or whether you're graduating kids in a comparable fashion?
Yes, we outperform every year CPS public schools. So we are doing well. We're rated a level 1 in elementary school and a level 2 in high school. So we've performed very well and have grown every year.
And there's just one virtual school in Chicago?
There is one virtual school.
And is there resistance to creating more virtual schools?
Yes. Yes, this is a battle that my peers here are working hard and diligent at. And I think what it is, I've worked in this field for 10 years now. I sort of started when it was no one even could fathom virtual education. And I started in St. Louis, and I've worked from each coast, West Coast to East Coast, and all the in between, opening schools in a variety of settings. We call them blended virtual learning centers. We call them, Chicago is the hybrid center, that have all, the core is the virtual piece. This is a movement that I've seen grown up from infancy to where I am now working regionally, my previous life, and as a head of school.
You know, what fascinates me about the idea of the virtual school is that it also could be blended with the idea of the exceptional teacher. So let's think that, you know, we all go out and we play football, but there's only like 300 or 500 professional football players. Same with teachers. There's a lot of good teachers, but there's probably 500 extraordinary, or 10,000. I don't know what the number is. But to be able to take some of their message and their ability to explain things, kind of like what they've done with Khan Academy. I've looked at like the Doppler effect on there, and I'm like, my goodness, this is better than I've ever heard this explained before. Very simple and very colorful and easy to grasp. And thinking of combining that with traditional teaching. But when I was talking earlier about dead enders are the people who say, oh no, we're going to do it the way we've always done it, one teacher, 20 kids, or we'll make it 18 kids or whatever, but that's all we're going to do. We're not going to bring anything through the internet into the class. But I think there's I think there's also an opportunity for teachers. What I would say is the extraordinary teachers, that's who we should put the kids from school that are learning to be teachers in those classes, give the teacher part of the tuition so we'd actually pay the extraordinary. So I'd make teachers like professional athletes. They would get more and more money. The extraordinary teacher might have 20 young teachers sitting in the back row watching that teacher teach, but then they'd be getting maybe some of that tuition money to get them a larger salary.
I love it, yeah. We all have been hopefully impacted by someone in our lives, be it a teacher or a parent that has truly impacted us. I think you're right that we have to really develop those teachers and have those opportunities not only in the traditional school setting but in different models like virtual education. It's powerful. You'll get to hear from a bright young student over here that has just, her life was changed because of a choice option at CVCS. Our students also have the opportunity to have teachers from all across the country and interact with a virtual Mandarin Chinese teacher that lives in California. They have a plethora of opportunities and these powerful teachers to reach out to because we have this mode of virtual instruction.
Michael, I wanted to ask you about girls being taught separately from boys. We talked about that a little bit on the way in, and my son's going to be starting an all-boys school. He's sort of, you know, has mixed feelings about it. But what do you think about it? And I guess part of it, in the answer is, also, some places have tried to restrict separating girls and boys, and there are probably advantages, disadvantages, but really there's a question also of choice. Should someone be allowed to choose that and have that as a choice?
You know, I think when it comes to education, I have a saying, I say only everything will do. We need all the options on the table. And I know that I'm a strong believer in the power of single-sex education. You know, I used to have an admissions director who would go to a school and say, do you know who the valedictorian at our school is? You know, do you know who the smartest science student? Do you know who the best athlete is? Do you know who the president of our student council is? And the answer to that question was always the same. It's a girl. And I think that the beauty of all girls education and what the research shows us time and time again is that it prepares women to take leadership positions and leadership responsibility, not just in the classroom, but in their lives and in their careers.
but also getting back to choice. It shouldn't be a restricted choice, that you can't have a law that says you can't have a girls' school or you can't have a boys' school.
No.
And really, that's what this all gets back to, is most of the people who I call the dead enders want to make these choices for us. And I don't, it's a parent's decision, and they have to look at all the choices, but you need to have the choice. Andy, you want to chime in?
Well, I certainly think that choice is important. We've got currently about 20,000 parents in Chicago on waiting lists trying to get into charter schools. I'll tell you a story about that. 5 years ago, when we had 30,000 charter school students, I was talking to a reporter in town, and she asked me, Andrew, when do you see the charter school movement kind of hitting its cap? When will demand no longer be out there? And I said, I don't really see a cap for opportunity in our city. But they said, well, if you've got 10,000 waiting lists and they all get in, won't the choice just be fulfilled? And I said, well, we'll have to wait and see. Well, 5 years later, we've got 55,000 students in charter schools and now 20,000 students on waiting lists. So we're seeing both demand increase while supply increases. The challenge now is we have restricted supply and not enough opportunity for great schools. Now, the beauty of the charter movement, I've always said, is that there's a simple proposition behind it, and that is those who started it thought we could break the link between academic opportunity and the circumstances of one's background. And now we have dozens of schools doing that today, where we're taking students from impoverished backgrounds, sending them to and through college at rates people didn't think were possible 6 years ago. So the question now is, we've proven it can be done. How do we do it at scale and broader across the city and state?
And one of the things I always think about as part of the problem is I meet with a lot of school superintendents from the public school system in Kentucky, and they tell me that it isn't really so much lack of money, but lack of the ability to spend the money where it needs to be spent. It's lack of decision making. So the superintendent, I'm always aghast. There'll be a $100 million budget for a county, and they'll say, oh, we're doing a drive to raise money to buy pencils. And it's like, really? You don't have any money for pencils? Oh, well, it's all designated because someone on high in Washington has decided it has to be spent on X. Well, one year you might need X plus 1, and next year you might need X minus 10 for that particular activity, but you've got to give that power to the superintendents, to the principals and the teachers. And I think that's maybe part of our obstacle, is that we've had a great deal of resistance from organized education, against more choices. They feel threatened by more choices, but I think we need to do a better job from our movement to say, look, we want to empower teachers. We want teachers to feel better about their job. We ultimately want the best to get more money. Everybody really, but really the best to be elevated up and get even more, but really to have more empowerment. And if you have a great idea for how to teach calculus, by all means start doing it. And if it looks like it's working, that's a new technique. But you can't have it all coming down from Washington. It needs to be more local innovation.
Senator, I might add that a big part of this discussion is about accountability. And when we talk about choice and alternatives, I don't think anybody's going to hold a school system or a school more accountable than a parent and a child with the option to go somewhere else. And the minute families have that option to go to a better school, the existing school either has to ship up or shape out. And I think that's a big driver. There's not enough discussion about accountability. It's always, unfortunately, more about more money, a larger bureaucracy, and not enough about saying, hey, let's give the parents and the children more control, more decision over how that money's spent and where it's spent, and how to hold schools accountable.
Well, and the thing I think people have to think about is I looked briefly at Joseph Feenum's statistics. It's like 90 to 100% graduate, but virtually everybody gets placed in college from your high school. And it's like, how can you argue against that? And you only have 150 students. Wouldn't we want to have 20 other schools like Joseph Feenum? How would you have them? Have scholarships. Have a statewide scholarship program. Let people take their money. I've introduced this in Washington. There's something called Title I funds that come out of Washington. They come with a lot of strings, and they go to the school. I'd rather attach them to the student. So if you meet the poverty requirements, you'd get the money. And then you would choose which school you go to. So all the Title I funds would actually follow the kids to whichever school they chose.
The Catholic school system in Chicago, I believe it's the largest private school system in our country. And while Joseph Feenum is thriving, there's a number of schools that are struggling. And it's because the entirety of their funding has to come from the blood, sweat, and tears of their parents and their generous donors. And our students are having to pay twice. But here's this system that has been around for more than a century. And I think new schools are great, but it takes a while for a school to become a great school. It's a community that's built, and the Catholic schools in Chicago stand ready to welcome the capacity that is needed.
And one important thing here, and this is a bit of a philosophic point, but it's an important point, is the money's yours, okay? It's not the government's money. Once you say it's the government's money, everybody says, oh, well, government money can't go to a religious school. After World War II, we had the GI Bill. Almost everybody in our country, conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, thinks the GI Bill was a good thing. But it was tax money, your money, given back to you in the form of scholarships. You could take it to Notre Dame, or you could take it to Illinois State. You could take it anywhere you wanted. That's all we're asking, is that you be able to take your money and take it where you want to go to school, and education will get better. It'll be more choices. But really, that's what this argument is. It's choice versus coercion. So it's freedom of choice versus coercion, and we have to really get ourselves involved in this debate if we're going to move forward.
At this point, we're going to invite the families to come up, and then we'll slide down. I think they'll be over there.
On the center.
Thank you all for joining. I think it'd be best if you just go around and introduce yourself and which school you're from, and then that'd be great for everybody here.
I'll start off. My name is Lucy Reese, and I have children attending Noble Gary Comer College Prep, along with my daughter here who attends CICS Prairie Campus.
Hello, my name is Courtney McKinney, and I attend to CICS Prairie, and I'm in 8th grade.
Hi, I'm Peyton Boyle, and I attend a Chicago Virtual Charter School.
My name is Sabrina Boyle. This is my daughter. I also have 2 other children at Chicago Virtual Charter School.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Segundo, and I am a student here at Josephinum Academy.
Hi, I'm Jasmine's mom, Yolanda Segundo.
Hello, my name is India Lawrence. I am a junior here at Josephinum Academy.
My name is Jamila Lawrence. I'm the mother of India Lawrence, a student here at Josephinum Academy, and I also have a son who attends Suter Montessori.
Well, why don't we start with India, since you've got the microphone. Tell us why you decided to come here, and then let's hear from your mom why she chose to get you here.
Well, initially, I did not want to attend Josephinum. I initially wanted to attend De La Salle, which is also another Catholic private school, but we couldn't afford it. So my mom was like, well, here's another school. Why don't you look at this? And I'm like, no. But I came on a shadow day, and the students were so friendly. Everybody knew each other, which I really liked. The school was very diverse, which I really, really loved. The curriculum was challenging, but I could handle it. Teachers were so dedicated. Every student that had a question, they got their question answered, which I thought to be very beneficial because, you know, teachers can't always get to every student. But I just love this school. The faculty knew me as soon as I came in the door. They're like, hi, India. I was like, hi. How do you know my name? But it's just a very well-rounded, welcoming school, which I felt to be very beneficial. I loved it. So.
If you could just tell us why you chose to bring India here, and if it's difficult, how hard it is to get here, that kind of thing.
I chose Josephinum because it's a good fit for my daughter. India's my firstborn, so she's been like my little test project here in Chicago. So India has attended CPS school in the Regional Gifted Center. She's been in a charter school, and now she's here at Josephinum. And each time it was really just trying to find an environment where my daughter was going to thrive and develop just based on who India is. We visited several high schools here, just doing our little touring and checking them out. And though she likes that everyone's so friendly for her, what I like is that Josephina was exactly what India needed for her to thrive and become the young woman that she desires to be. I always exercise my choice. I'm a parent who comes from a family who was raised by parents who also did the same thing for me. We've always gone to schools outside of our communities. I travel about 40 minutes every morning to bring India to school and to also bring her brother into a community nearby to attend school. And my grandparents did the same for my parents. So it was important to me that my students are in environments that are going to really nurture them as a person and make certain that they feel successful and that they feel progressive in school and that they can feel proud of their accomplishments in school versus just going to a school that's nearby that may not be the best place for them to grow. It's a little difficult, but it's an investment. I'm investing in my children because though she's though I entrust Josephina and Suter with my children during the core hours of a day, at the start and end of every day, I am accountable for my children. I'm responsible for them.
So, India, I think what you get from that is your mother's always right, and she knows what's best for you.
Apparently.
No, but I mean, think about it. She's doing a lot of work and effort to get you this great education. It sounds like her parents did too, and it's sort of where this drive comes from. And people are always saying, well, what's government going to do? I can't give you a mom that cares about you, but somehow she cares and her parents cared. It's that bond of family, but that is important. It's sort of like when we say, well, we haven't talked much about the spiritual aspect of this. This is a religious school. It has a spiritual impact on the kids too. And I think that's not something government can necessarily give, but it is an important part of making people good citizens and making people good people, yes. Jasmine, why don't you tell us about why you chose to come?
I chose Josephina Academy based on the openness that I was able to feel as soon as I got here. There was two choices for me, either Josephina Academy or Guerin Prep, which is in Elmwood Park. And it's another Catholic school, and I've always been in a Catholic school. I've always liked the environment there. And I've always learned a lot of discipline being in a school that's private and Catholic and that's small. However, when I went to Guerin Prep, it was very unfitting for me. It was very unexpected. But when I came to Josephina, I felt this feeling that I've never felt before, and it was a type of feeling that I could say, this is home for me. And to get that sense of feeling and that sense of emotion in me is honestly the greatest feeling I could ask for, because I know that I'm going to be able to succeed throughout my years here at Josephina. I'm a senior, and I've progressed tremendously from what I was, from what I was in grammar school. I wasn't the student that I was before, but I got to learn a lot from the school. I've got to strengthen my abilities as a person. I got to view and open my horizons to a whole new world that I never thought I could ever imagine possible. And honestly, the teachers here are amazing. I mean, they push you and they push you, but it's not because they don't want you to succeed, but it's because they want you to learn the best to our abilities. And honestly, that's the greatest gift I can ever ask for.
Let's hear from your mom, because I know your mom knows everything that's best for you too. So.
Well, I went to a public school when I was in grammar school, but my mom worked very hard to put me to Catholic. And just like you said, the spiritual and religion part is what she wanted to aim at. She was always working, and she worked the night shift. It was 5 women that she had to put through high school. And we all went to Catholic schools. And I feel very proud. Even though she passed away, she told me, just push on and see how far you can get with her, because her education is what counts. And I want her to achieve more than I have. I mean, I only went through high school. I didn't have the choice of going to college because my parents couldn't afford it. But I mean, I really, really honestly believe that Josephina have done a lot for my daughter. And to this day, hopefully, I have a 6-year-old who's going to St. William, another Catholic school, and she's 6 years old. So hopefully I have the strength and the faith to keep on going, and the choice is mine. The choice is mine because it's their future who's going to represent us. And that's all I have to give them. And hopefully they will succeed better than I have.
You know, when I hear these stories, they're all great and uplifting stories, and I'm imagining how well India's going to do and how well Jasmine's going to do and how poised they are at their age, really, to be able to speak in front of an audience. My hands were shaking when I was in high school trying to give a speech. But the thing about it is when I think about their future and I think they're going to do great, I also think about how could anybody oppose broadening this experience for more people? Because that really is. There is a public policy debate, and it doesn't break down neatly party to party, but there really is a debate. There are people who want to stop the charter schools. That's been going on in your legislature. There are people who don't want the scholarship opportunities that could expand how many people can come here, or whether it could be another Josephinum. This is a real debate that goes on in Chicago, goes on in our country. And it's something people need to make a stand. If you think this is great, this opportunity, let's expand this opportunity to more people. Peyton, you go to the virtual school. You want to tell us a little bit about that because it's a little bit different, I think?
Yeah. So I've been going to Chicago Virtual Charter School for 3 years now. And I've been in brick and mortar schools, public schools, and private schools. And I felt very unchallenged, very unmotivated. I really got bored with I progress a lot faster than the rest of my classmates, and I was just bored with the curriculum. And my teachers, they weren't really helping me, and with my brother, he has ADHD, and he goes to my school as well. They didn't help him at all. So it was, when I found out about Chicago Virtual Charter School, I thought, well, I can move at my own pace, and I have an individualized learning plan, and I can see my progress as it's happening. As soon as I finish a quiz or a test, I can see how it affects my grades. It's not dependent on anybody but me, and that made me really self-sufficient, and I got so much more excited about school, and I'd never thought at that point in time when I went to public school that I could go to college. That was never my ambition, but now I've pressed and, just gone forward, and I've been accepted to all the colleges I applied to, and I'm going toward being an IT engineer, and I have an internship my senior year at the number 3 managed service provider in Chicago, so it changed my life.
So are you learning at home on a computer, or are you out of school? How does it work?
I am learning at home most of the time. Like Ms. Biaspas said, I go to school once a week, and I learn with the rest of my classmates, and I've made great friends from all corners of Chicago that I never would have if I were restricted to just that district, just that public school. And I really felt that the choice was mine. Like I could do anything I wanted to at this point.
Are you doing kind of a traditional curriculum the same as everybody else, or have you gone farther in some subjects because you got more interested in them?
Well, the standards are the same. We are a public school, but we're a chartered school, so the standards, you take chemistry just as a sophomore takes chemistry, you take biology as a freshman takes biology, but you can complete that course or do the lessons for each week at your own pace, at your own time. So you can finish it whenever you want to, and if that's in a day, that's an entire week's worth in a day, and it builds on itself, just as in a public school.
Peyton's mom, you want to tell us why you chose this school?
So, as Peyton said, she was really very bored in we really enjoyed our Catholic school, loved it. And all of my kids went there. My oldest graduated from there. She'll graduate college at the end of this school year. But with Peyton, she was just really unchallenged. I have a son who has ADHD, and the Catholic school actually said to us, knowing they would lose our tuition with 3 of my kids going there, that it would be better for him to go to the public school because they would have, better programs for him. He would be able to learn better. And like I said, we were sad to go, but when you're in Chicago, you know you have to go to a Catholic school or your education is not going to be good. You have to send your kids to a Catholic school or a private school. You know, work your butt off and get them to a private school. So going to the public school wasn't something we wanted to do, but if he was going to get the help he needed, then that's what we did. And we were really mistaken. One teacher actually told me ADHD doesn't really exist, and I should know that and realize that my kid just is never going to be able to do this. Principal sat him down and said, I have ADHD, you're going to do great, don't worry. Teachers didn't care, just really couldn't help him. So after a couple of years of just being so frustrated and realizing, well, now we really don't have the money to send him back to the Catholic school because I have a kid and 2 kids going into high school and another kid coming up. We knew that I was going to have to quit my job, do some homeschooling, send him to Sylvan, whatever we could do. And just by luck, we saw an ad for Chicago Virtual Charter School and jumped on it. And just really within weeks, the turnaround was amazing. So Kieran, I didn't realize this, but when he graduated 8th grade at Chicago Virtual Charter, the day before, he started crying and telling me, you know, I never thought this day would come. Never thought he would graduate 8th grade, ever. And he graduated with honors.
And he still does the same sort of self-paced education?
He does. The great thing about it is a lot of people think there's no social interaction, but this was a kid who didn't smile for 2 years, and now he takes leadership roles. We're excited because he has friends. They do see each other once a week. They do see each other on what they call Class Connects, web chats. But it's just a completely different environment for them. They take responsibility for their education. So whereas, sorry, Peyton used to think that doing her nails was more important. Now she's got, you know, motivational statements up on above her desk. She yells to her other friends going, you know, roll out of bed. It's right there. Roll out of bed. Get to school. It's not hard. And then my youngest son is now on the National Junior Honor Society, having gone to Chicago Virtual Charter School. They take responsibility for their education, and I think getting them involved and having them make the choice and having them decide what lessons they're going to do and where they're going to go really helped.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think part of that is that not every child is the same, and it may be better for some kids than other kids, and sort of parents and those children will self-select for that type of education. I can still remember being in 5th grade, and we were given the math book and just said go in the hall and do it at your own pace because we were kind of disrupting the class a little bit, but because we were bored and we were ahead, so they just gave us the book and said go. Then we disrupted other things after we were done with the book, but that's another story. Courtney, why don't you tell us a little bit about your choice?
Well, I used to go to a school called Paul Cuffey. It's a public school, I think, and it was like an all year round school, and I used to have a lot of days out and really get a lot of learning. And so my mom thought if I go to CICS Prairie, like it's a generation between my family, well, my brothers and sisters, and they got out of CICS Prairie, and they went to great high schools. And mom thought if I go to that school, I might get good learning. And the teachers, they help us a lot. They tell us, like, they motivate us to do our work, and like the learning is fun because that's how all the students get their learning, and we get good grades. And I've been in CSS Prairie for 6 years, and I really enjoy going to that school, and they help me out a lot. I mean, like, I have IEPs and stuff, like, I do different work than other people, and I started, like, they keep helping me, and they motivate me to do my work, like, you know, you could get your work done, and you could get this right. Don't, like, stress yourself of doing this because you know eventually you're going to get it right because we're helping you. And I enjoy that because I have wonderful teachers and wonderful friends at my school, and they all respect us all. They don't treat us no different, and we have a lot of activities doing at our school. Yeah.
Great. Courtney's mom, do you want to tell us about how you made the choice?
I made the choice over 14 years ago. My eldest is 23, and like she said, he started out at CICS Prairie campus. And the reason for me choosing the school was not just for the curriculum, which was one of the high factors. It was also because of the additional hours that they attend school. They attend school longer than your regular CPS schools, and they have aftercare, which allowed them to stay longer at the school, which allowed me to get off work, come get them, and they were all in a safe environment and a learning environment. They all went away to high schools, but unfortunately, they weren't within my neighborhood. I live in the Roseland neighborhood, and unfortunately, we don't really have great traditional schools. There is one, unfortunately, they weren't able to get into Gwendolyn Brooks, so I had to sort out an option, a choice, which was given to me by charter schools. And because of those charter schools, my son went to North Lindale College Prep on the west side. He traveled every day, but it was the best experience of his life, and he enjoyed it and wouldn't take anything back. My oldest daughter went to CICS Longwood Academy, which she strived and which she's doing right now at UIS. Now my son, who's attending the Noble Gary Comer College Prep, quiet, meek young man. Right now, he is the top of his football team. He's a captain of the football team and the baseball team, and still keeps his grades up. The fact that those things motivate him to do well each and every day. He checks his grades all the time. He knows exactly what he needs to be doing, and I don't have to follow with him because he's going to be in the lead direction where he needs to follow. Now, with my daughter here, Courtney, like she said, she's in the IEP, but she has such great mentors at the school who works with her, and I can contact them at any time and have a conversation on her improvements. They let me know when she even had bad days. The communication amongst the school makes it so welcoming that any kid that attends there will also receive the same type of care that's given by the school and the peers and the teachers. And the best part about it is that I had a choice that I normally would not have had it if charter schools have not entered into our realm.
Very good. I think Courtney's mom brought up something we can maybe throw back to some of the educators or the experts in the field is Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Outliers, and in that book he talked about one of the things that really has been proved to work is more time in school or shorter summers. The Asian civilizations, Japanese, Chinese, they do longer school years. Is any of that figure into what you do either at Josephinum or any of the other schools, either longer days or longer school years?
Yeah, I mean, certainly longer days for sure. Our freshmen go until 4 o'clock, and we're working to build in a dedicated study time for them. Because we know a lot of times our students go home and they don't have, it's not like they're going home to a library where they've got all the resources and support to get their work done. So a longer day, a longer school year, I think, of course, as well. I think, the beauty of a school like ours, or schools like ours that have to compete for students, is that we do whatever it takes to make sure that our students are successful and to meet the desires and needs of our families. And don't get me wrong, I would love, students forgive me for this, but I would love to offer more robust programming throughout the summer. I would love to see us go year round. But it's thanks this year to a grant from AT&T where the AT&T Foundation is supporting us in offering a really tremendously robust summer program this year with college visits, ACT prep, enrichment courses and things like that. But that's out of the goodness of donations. I think we deserve more because, again, our students have already paid for this.
I have a comment on that as well. One of the beauties of our program is our students have access to the curriculum 24/7. So their traditional curriculum is there waiting for them if they have access to the internet. So we have a young gentleman in middle school who's an actor, and he is on one of the Prime Network's stations. Yeah. And he travels, so he needs to have access to curriculum, and all he needs is internet access. So our kids definitely, when parents come and tour our school, it's a lifestyle choice. Parents have to be involved. The curriculum is there 24/7, so it allows education to be a lifestyle, not just a event that happens in a certain time frame.
being in Chicago Virtual. Remember, I do have 4 children, and when my 3 youngest got into the school, I thought, oh, I really wish I had this program for my oldest child. And she was going into college, and I said, you really got to try this online stuff. It's really worked for your brothers and sisters. God, this is going to be great. And 2 weeks later, she was crying and dropping the class. So it's not for everyone. What's great is that I had the choice. It took me a long time to find that choice. I wish I had had it sooner, but it doesn't even work for everyone in my family. But what's great is that I'm able to make that choice for them, and I would never have had that for her. And I'm glad that she stayed where she did. I'm glad she graduated from a Catholic grade school and a Catholic high school, but that wasn't for them. And so when we had trouble with our children, my father said to me, what's wrong with your kids? You got a 34 on your ACT. Why is it that they're not doing it? I said, because they're not me. Okay? I needed to be able to make a different choice for them.
I just might add, I think what's just incredible, and I think this is what's missed out in the whole debate, is just how different each child and how different each parent is here. And in the trials that you guys, I think you gave a great example. You go through trials and try to find what's best for your child. And I always complain, I don't like when we say to go to the best school. The best school isn't always what's best for your child. You got to find that fit, whether it's a big school, a small school, Catholic, not religious, science-based, English-based, whatever it is. There's so many types of schools, and there should be so many types of schools for people to learn, because each one of these kids are different. And the current model just ignores that, forgets that. And the power of what every family said here today is just phenomenal. I think it's amazing that how different you are, yet you're all succeeding in your own way, because you're finding the right school, the right model. They're all different, and yet everybody's succeeding.
And the way you find innovation is you have to have less rigid controls from on high. If Washington tells you every kid's the same and every student has the same, we'll never get there.
One thing I wanted to add on the virtual schooling, I've gotten more involved in that, and I think it's fascinating. Amy's right that the whole world is changing on that. You're talking about changing how college operates, how even for small kids. I've got 4 kids. And I've watched my youngest 8, just how adept he is at the computer and his ability to learn math at his own pace through the different curriculum that he has online. He goes to a traditional public school. And so it's phenomenal that's happening. And I think what we have to do is embrace more and more that innovation, because that innovation is going to change the cost problems. Look, there's no panacea for education. There's no panacea. There's not one single model that's going to change everything. But what I do believe is that all of these things combined will change things. It'll help drive down the cost of education, just like innovation does for every other product in the world, besides education and healthcare. I'm sorry. I think drive down the cost. Like the senator said, we should have our best teachers get paid a ton. And those teachers who aren't performing well should have to be retrained, or maybe they're not in the right field. But I think what we need to do is dynamically change things. And I think the digital platform will help change that, but also the traditional Catholic schools, the charter schools. I think it's all the above.
Well, thanks, everybody. Do we have another panel, or are we wrapping it up?
So, Josh, if you're ready, we're going to close up. Do you want to make some closing statements, Senator?
Just thank everybody for coming out, and that really what we're talking about is something that is fundamentally American. That's choice, freedom of choice. That's something that all Americans should embrace. But we've been stagnating. We've got dead enders who say we want to keep it the same, we don't want any change. But really, who are they thinking about? Are they thinking about the kids and the students or themselves? And so we need to have this debate in public. We need to have a vigorous debate. But those who want and who have been privileged to get a good education need to stand up and fight so other kids can get it too. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joshua Dwyer. I'm the Director of Education Reform at the Illinois Policy Institute. We're an organization that deals with a whole bunch of issues, but the issue I deal with is education, in particular school choice. So that means digital learning, that means charter schools, that also means opportunity scholarships. Those are the scholarships that kids can use to go to the school of their choice. So that was what the whole discussion was about today. And we hope you come away with the feeling that choice can be a possibility in Illinois, that choice works for families, that not all students are cut from the same cloth, that they learn different ways, and that this can be a real possibility. So if you want more information about school choice, all these different sorts of options, feel free to visit us, illinoispolicy.org. You can look at all of our research and those sort of things, and feel free to email, call, whatever you want. And if you want to be involved, we would love that too, because we have a big fight that we need to fight in Springfield. So thank you so much for coming.
For me. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you. So impressed. Congrats, Mom. She did awesome.
You should look into that school for Caleb.
Pardon?
You should look into the virtual school for Caleb.
I know.
Good morning, ladies. Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be able to welcome you to Josephinum Academy. My name is Michael Doherty. I'm the proud president of this wonderful school. It's my pleasure to be able to introduce you most especially to our students. And so if I could, ladies, would you stand up just so that we can say hello? If you would remain standing for just a heartbeat, I want to share with you a little bit about these inspiring young women. They come to us from 40 different zip codes of Chicago, seeking a quality Catholic college preparatory environment. Every year, it's routine for our students to have 100% acceptance into college. We think we've got three major tasks ahead of us each year. One is to give our students a quality education that prepares them for success at college and in life. Second is to help guide our students and their families in the college search process so that they find the school that's the very best fit for them. Third is to help our young women win the scholarships and competitive prizes that help to make college affordable. Last year's class was awarded more than $1.9 million in merit-based college scholarships, and we look forward to breaking that record this year. Thank you. Thank you. Before we begin, I'd like us to take just a moment of silence. This past weekend was one of brutal violence in our own city. 44 wounded, 8 killed. I often wonder what our city could be like if we had stronger educational opportunities for our children. I'd also like to remember especially all of those who are missing from the Korean ferry that sank just last week. I believe the number is around 200 who are presumed to be dead, the majority of whom are teenagers who were just on a field trip. Last, I want to take a moment to remember all of those other lives that are in, sometimes now in Chicago, schools that we know need a lot of help. I won't go so far as to call them sinking ships, but I would say that it's clear that we need everybody's help if we're going to have a strong solution. And so it's in that spirit today that we welcome you for a dialogue, not to promote any personal ideology or political party or individual politician, but to create the space where we can have a conversation about an issue that I believe is deeply relevant to our students, the communities they come from, our city, and our country. It's with this that it's my pleasure to be able to introduce Mr. Ted Dabrowski, the Vice President of Policy from the Illinois Policy Institute.
Michael, thank you for that introduction, and thank you so much for hosting this event at this awesome gym and school, and it's great to see it full of people and energy. When I think of Josephina and what I've gotten to know of it, I think it really evokes everything that I think of as what school choice means. You've got students coming from many, many places outside the city and the suburbs, some traveling a long way to get here. You've got families scraping by to make sure that they can pay for an education at a school like this. And you've got administrators and teachers dedicated to making this a great school and caring about the children, not in the trite way that's often talked about, the children. I think it's really meant here. And so it's just exciting to be here, and thank you for hosting. The Illinois Policy Institute got to know Josephina more deeply because we followed the story of Jalen. She's one of the students here. And one of our staff members at the Illinois Policy Institute tracked her trip every day to school and wrote about it, and it made it into the Tribune. And Jalen travels an hour and a half each way to get to school. She takes one car ride, 2 bus rides, 2 train rides, and 2 brisk walks to make it to school every day. It's an hour and a half. But what's amazing is that she has to do it on the way home again. That's what people do when they're given the chance to succeed. That's what people do when they have a choice and an alternative. And that's what we need to see more of in Illinois and in Chicago. Now, sadly, you would think that there's got to be a closer school for Jalen, somewhere closer to her home. You've got to think that there's got to be better policies that are going to create more and more schools so that somebody doesn't have to travel an hour and a half one way. But the reality is that most of the laws and policies that are being put in place in Illinois and Chicago are not working the right way. They're not promoting more alternate parents and children, more control over education dollars. And this group here that wants more choice, more alternatives, more options for the children, needs to raise their voice. And so we're thankful that Senator Rand Paul has come here today to help create a dialogue. I think it's important what Michael said. This is a dialogue. Let's open up the discussion. Let's find out what alternatives there are. And so with that, I welcome Senator Rand Paul to Chicago and to Josephina.
All right, well, thanks, everybody. And I want to thank Josephina for letting me be part of this forum today. As was mentioned, education is not a Republican or a Democrat issue, okay? But education is the great equalizer. You want to have equality in your country? You want to have an equal fighting chance with everybody else? It's not easy. Not everybody's got the same chances. But if you get an education, that is the great equalizer. Now, while this is not a Republican or a Democrat issue, there are people on 2 sides of this issue. I call them the dead-enders and those who believe.
Alternatives to promoting less. And if Jalen didn't have access to a scholarship given by Josephina and its backers, she may be stuck in a school that doesn't work for her, that doesn't give her the best opportunity in life. So sadly, I think those opportunities aren't there. Today's school choice really only exists for the wealthy, for those people who have enough means to leave an area without a good school and move to an environment where there's better schools, the suburbs, another city. And that's what the wealthy do. They have school choice all the time. There's a few people in the inner city that do have school choice, and that's if they win the lottery to attend a charter school. But the rest of those people, those without means, those who don't win the lottery, are pretty much trapped in one choice, and that's not fair. And I think this meeting is about making sure that every single child, that we don't rest until every single child in Chicago, in Illinois, and in America have more than one choice. And that's what we have to fight for. So I think it's so exciting to bring everybody together, to have Andrew Broy from the Illinois Network of Charter Schools fight every day for more charter schools in Illinois. Amy Biasbas, who is the head of the Chicago Virtual Charter School, bringing innovation and a totally different way of learning, and bringing that innovation that changes how school is taught. It's exciting for me. We pair that with the families who are going to talk in just a few minutes. And we pair that, of course, with Michael's school here, Josephinum. What we do is we add Senator Rand Paul and bringing a national voice and showing interest in making more choice a reality. You know, I think the truth is that there's a lot of people who don't want more innovation in our schools. There's a group of people who don't want to give